Welcome, food adventurers, to the culinary equivalent of Indiana Jones' greatest treasure hunt. Imagine stumbling upon a map that leads you to dishes so unique, so mind-bogglingly obscure, you'll wonder how you've survived this long without them. Today, we're diving into 20 foods that you've probably never heard of, and you're about to find out why that's a blessing and a curse. Some of these delicacies are so strange they make a regular burger look like haute cuisine, while others are the kinds of foods you eat if you're looking to impress or possibly traumatize your friends at your next dinner party. From the delectable to the downright daring, we're exploring flavors, textures, and combinations that may leave your taste buds both confused and intrigued. But don't worry, we've got you covered. By the end of this list, you might find yourself wondering, how do I get my hands on that? Or, how soon can I forget this? Either way, it'll be a culinary journey like no other. So buckle up and prepare to take your taste buds on an unforgettable ride through the world's most unique foods. You may never look at your lunch the same way again. Number 20. Fesca. When it comes to holiday foods, nothing says Easter quite like Fesca, an Ecuadorian soup that's the culinary equivalent of an identity crisis. Imagine a dish where potatoes, beans, and fish come together like an awkward family reunion at a potluck. And yet somehow, it works. Fesca is traditionally enjoyed during Easter, and while it may sound like an odd combo, it's an integral part of Ecuadorian culture, bringing families together, one bewildered taste bud at a time. So why does this soup even exist? In Ecuador, Fesca is not just a dish, it's an Easter tradition that dates back centuries. The soup is symbolic, representing the 12 apostles of Jesus. Each ingredient in Fesca is said to represent one of the apostles, with beans, the body of Christ, and salted fish, a nod to the traditional Catholic Lenten fast, being the most prominent. The 12 different types of grains and beans used reflect the diversity and abundance of the apostles' collective wisdom. But we're not here for a theology lesson. Let's talk about what this soup tastes like. Fesca is rich, thick, and filled with potatoes and beans, giving it a creamy texture that's somehow both chowder-esque and fishy at the same time. While some might say it's an acquired taste, the locals swear by it, even going so far as to argue it's the soul of Easter celebrations in Ecuador. As for the rest of the world, you'll mostly find it in Ecuador, so if you're looking to try it, head south of the equator. To sum up, Fesca is weird, wonderful, and one of the few dishes where eating potatoes, beans, and fish together actually makes perfect sense. Well, Ecuadorian sense anyway. Number 19. Ají de gallina. Ají de gallina, a Peruvian chicken dish, is like the culinary equivalent of a mystery box challenge. It's a little spicy, a little creamy, and contains ingredients that, at first glance, you might never think should be in the same dish. But trust us, this Peruvian delight is more than the sum of its quirky parts. Picture this: shredded chicken simmered in a sauce made from yellow chilies, white bread, walnuts, turmeric, and black olives. Yes, we're serious. No, we haven't lost our minds. So why is ají de gallina consumed, you ask? Simple. It's a comfort food, a celebratory dish, and for many Peruvians, it's a reminder of their rich culinary heritage. This dish dates back to the colonial era, when the fusion of indigenous Peruvian ingredients and European influences led to the creation of a flavor-packed masterpiece. Ají de gallina was a meal fit for royalty, and over time became a staple for family gatherings, holidays, and Sunday feasts. The main star here is ají amarillo, or yellow chili, which gives the dish its signature heat and golden hue. The turmeric adds a cozy, earthy warmth, while the walnuts and bread in the sauce create a creamy, velvety texture that'll make you wonder why you didn't think to blend nuts with bread before. Oh, and the black olives? They're the final flourish of briny contrast that ties the whole dish together in a way only Peruvians could have dreamed up. This dish is consumed in Peru, of course, but you'll find it on the menus of Peruvian restaurants worldwide because who doesn't love a little international flavor? So go ahead, dive in, and embrace the flavor-packed mystery of ají de gallina. Your taste buds will thank you, and so will your stomach once it figures out what just happened. Number 18. Kudu Steak. If you're looking for a steak that's lean, mean, and makes you feel like a true adventurer, look no further than Kudu Steak. This South African delicacy is like the filet mignon of the wild, minus the fat and the fancy steakhouse atmosphere. In fact, the kudu, a large, majestic antelope, is so revered in South Africa that eating its meat is practically a rite of passage. And let's be clear, this isn't your average steak. This is wild game that requires a certain level of bravery, whether it's from your taste buds or the fact that you're eating a creature that might have once been prancing around on the savannah. Kudu steak is consumed mainly in South Africa, where it's considered a prized cut of meat. In the wild world of South African cuisine, it's a symbol of hunting tradition. For generations, kudu have been hunted by indigenous peoples, farmers, and seasoned hunters alike. The meat is known for its incredible tenderness and leanness, similar to filet mignon, but without that pesky layer of fat that some folks think is a necessary steak accessory. It's the kind of steak that makes you feel like a carnivorous superhero, if superheroes ate their protein in the form of antelope. As for the flavor, think rich, gamey, and all-around delicious. Kudu meat is typically prepared in a way that highlights its natural flavors, grilled, roasted, or even made into a hearty stew. But whatever method you choose, the absence of fat means you'll be left with a pure, lean cut that packs a punch without the extra grease. So, if you find yourself in South Africa or a fancy restaurant serving wild game, don't be shy. Order the Kudu steak and impress your friends by casually saying, "Oh, just a little wild game, no big deal." Because really, eating an antelope just sounds cool, right? Number 17. Toast with kaya. Toast with kaya. A Singaporean breakfast dish that sounds simple but packs more history and flavor than your average avocado toast ever could. Imagine this: crispy, buttery toast slathered with kaya, a sweet coconut egg jam so creamy it practically melts in the heat of your morning coffee. Sounds like the breakfast of champions, right? If your champions are coffee addicts with a penchant for carbs, that is. But why is toast with kaya consumed, you ask? Well, in Singapore, this dish is a time-honored breakfast tradition. It's not just something you eat to stave off hunger, it's a ritual. Kaya toast has been served in Singaporean kopitiams, coffee shops, for decades, often accompanied by soft-boiled eggs and a cup of local coffee known as kopi. The toast is typically dipped in the rich, dark brew, allowing the kaya to soften and the butter to seep into the bread. It's like the savory, sweet version of a warm hug for your taste buds. The origin of kaya is tied to the region's colonial history, where the British brought over the concept of jam, and the locals, with their flair for fusion, decided to make it their own by adding coconut and eggs. The result? A sweet, velvety concoction that's perfect for spreading on toast or eating by the spoonful when no one's looking. You'll find toast with kaya throughout Singapore, everywhere from hawker centers to posh cafes and even in homes where it's enjoyed as a breakfast staple. Whether you're a tourist seeking an authentic local experience or a resident craving a nostalgic start to the day, kaya toast is a sweet, melty, carb-filled love letter to Singapore's food culture. Just be careful when dunking it into your coffee. It might just melt your heart and your jam. Number 16. Rattlesnake. If you've ever thought, "I really need something more exciting than chicken for dinner," then let us introduce you to the culinary curiosity of the American Southwest, rattlesnake. Yes, you read that right. This venomous serpent isn't just slithering around the desert. It's being served in chili, breaded and deep-fried, grilled, sautéed with butter and herbs. Basically, it's a wild ride for your taste buds and possibly your survival instincts. But why is rattlesnake consumed, you ask? Well, in the American Southwest, eating rattlesnake is kind of a tradition. For centuries, indigenous tribes and settlers have hunted and cooked these scaly critters as a source of protein. The snake meat, which tastes a bit like chicken but with a slightly fishier twist, is considered a delicacy by some. Plus, it's a fun conversation starter. Imagine casually telling your dinner guests, "Oh, just a little rattlesnake stew." The tradition of rattlesnake consumption is part of the use what you can, waste nothing philosophy of the Southwest. After all, if you're out in the desert and a rattlesnake crosses your path, you might as well make the most of it. And since the meat is lean, tender, and packed with protein, it's often found on menus at southwestern diners, food festivals, and adventurous barbecues where regular meats just don't cut it. So where can you find rattlesnake on the menu? Mainly in the American Southwest, though some brave souls across the country will seek it out, usually deep-fried, tossed in chili, or served on a grill like an exotic kebab. In the wild world of southwestern cuisine, if you can grill a hot dog, you can probably grill a rattlesnake too. And who knows? If you've got the guts to try it, you might find it's the best thing you ever didn't expect to eat. Number 15. Crispy tarantulas. If you've ever looked at a tarantula and thought, I wonder how that would taste deep-fried, then you're in luck. In Cambodia, crispy tarantulas are not just a thing, they're a delicacy. That's right, the very arachnids that send shivers down the spine of most people are being eaten like potato chips in this Southeast Asian country. They're crispy, crunchy, and, if you're into facing your fears, the perfect snack for conquering your eight-legged anxieties. But why are tarantulas consumed? Well, in Cambodia, these creepy crawlies have been a source of sustenance for decades, particularly during the Khmer Rouge era, when food scarcity led people to find protein in unexpected places. What began as a necessity turned into a full-blown culinary tradition. The locals fry up these eight-legged wonders in oil, seasoning them with salt and garlic, and voila, a crunchy snack that's both protein-packed and a conversation starter. Some say they taste like chicken, but with an earthy, slightly nutty flavor. Others say it tastes like spider. But hey, to each their own. Crispy tarantulas are popular street food in Cambodia, where locals and adventurous tourists alike can find them at food stalls, often served as a side dish or snack. You can even buy them in bags, much like you would potato chips, for a casual nibble while strolling around. Whether you're visiting Cambodia or simply looking to impress your friends with your bravery, or scare them into never trusting you again, eating a crispy tarantula is an unforgettable experience. So next time you're faced with a spider, ask yourself, do I fear it, or could it be my next meal? In Cambodia, they've already made up their minds. Number 14. Silkworm larvae, a South Korean food. If you're ever in South Korea and feeling brave, you might be offered a dish that will make you pause and question your culinary choices. Biondeji, silverworm larvae. Yes, those little wriggly creatures that turn into moths are a street food delicacy, and you might even be handed a cup of them in their boiled or steamed glory. It's like a snack, but with a hint of, well, I never thought I'd be eating bugs today. The unique appeal of silkworm larvae lies in their combination of crunch, chew, and earthy flavor. Imagine a nutty, savory bite with a slight umami kick, and you'll be close to what biondeji tastes like. They are often served in small cups with a sprinkle of salt or a dash of soy sauce, making them an unexpected snack for the brave-hearted foodie. If you're lucky, you might even find them in a spicy stew, where they bring a little protein-packed surprise to your meal. But why eat silkworm larvae in the first place? Well, South Korea is no stranger to adventurous eating. Silkworms were once a reliable protein source in ancient times, especially in rural areas. During lean years or periods of war, they became a staple food to keep people going. Nowadays, they're enjoyed for their nutritional benefits. They're high in protein, iron, and even antioxidants, and as a nostalgic taste of tradition. The history behind biondeji goes way back, originating from the need to preserve and utilize silkworms during times of scarcity. Now it's just another quirky food trend, loved by many, and often served alongside a cold glass of beer. So next time you're in Korea, don't shy away from these little critters. They're not just a snack, they're part of the country's rich culinary heritage. Number 13. Prairie oysters, a Canadian food. If you've ever found yourself wandering the Canadian prairies and heard someone say, "Fancy some prairie oysters?" Pause before you jump into the offer. This isn't some exotic seafood dish, but rather the name for bull testicles. Yes, you read that right. While the name may sound like a cute appetizer made from oysters found in the prairie waters, it's really a dish that's as tough as the Canadian landscape itself. Prairie oysters are typically deep-fried or grilled and served with dipping sauce or spicy seasonings. The texture can range from tender to a bit chewy, and while it may not be your go-to snack, the bold and adventurous eaters swear by it. Why eat bull testicles, you ask? Well, it's all about tradition, nutrition, and the fact that, hey, nothing should go to waste on the farm. Historically, these oysters were a way to make use of every part of the animal, especially on ranches where food was sometimes scarce and ingenuity was key. This oddball dish has been around since the early days of cattle ranching in Canada, and it wasn't just the ranchers getting in on the action. In fact, prairie oysters were seen as a kind of rite of passage for men to prove their grit. If you could stomach it, you were tough enough to handle whatever the wild Canadian frontier threw your way. People love them for their unique taste and texture, but there's also a sense of pride in enjoying something so unusual. It's a food that brings people together with a sense of camaraderie, laughter, and the occasional "did I just eat that" moment. If you're ever in Canada and get invited to try prairie oysters, be brave. They may just become your most memorable meal, or at least a hilarious story to tell. Number 12. Eskimo ice cream, an Alaskan food. If you're ever in Alaska and someone offers you a scoop of Eskimo ice cream, don't assume it's a frozen dairy delight like you'd find in any other ice cream truck. This northern treat is nothing like the soft, creamy stuff we all know and love. Instead, it's a rich, hearty concoction made from animal fat. Yes, you read that right. Sweetened with berries and often mixed with seal oil or whale blubber. It's not exactly a dessert, but it's definitely a conversation starter. Eskimo ice cream, also known as akutak, which means mix in the Inupiat language, has been a staple for indigenous Alaskans for centuries. Why eat such a peculiar dish, you ask? Well, in the harsh Alaskan wilderness, nutrition is key, and akutak is packed with calories to fuel survival in extreme cold. The fat provides the necessary energy to keep people warm, while the berries offer a bit of sweet relief to the palate. Historically, it was made with whatever fats were available, including bear fat, moose fat, or reindeer fat, mixed with wild berries, sugar, and even fish in some variations. The joy of Eskimo ice cream isn't just in the taste, but in the community it fosters. It's a food that brings people together, often served during celebrations, feasts, or family gatherings. People enjoy it for its surprising richness and unique flavor. Some say it's an acquired taste, but once you try it, it sticks with you, and you'll probably never look at your regular ice cream cone the same way again. In a place where the cold is no joke, Eskimo ice cream is a reminder that sometimes the strangest foods have the most history, and a whole lot of heart. So next time you're in Alaska, grab a spoon and dig in. Fat and berries never tasted so adventurous. Number 11. Murnong, a rare wild food from southern Australia. If you're ever in southern Australia and someone offers you a bite of murnong, be prepared for a food experience that's as rare as it is tasty. Also known as the yam daisy, murnong is a wild tuber that was once a key part of the indigenous diet, but is now considered so rare, it's like finding a hidden treasure in the outback. Murnong isn't your typical food. Imagine a root vegetable that looks like a small, squat potato, but with a rich, nutty flavor and a slight sweetness. It was so prized by the Aboriginal people that they would carefully cultivate and harvest it from the wild. For centuries, this tuber was an essential food source, packed with energy and nutrition which helped people survive the harsh, dry conditions of the Australian landscape. Why is murnong so special today? For one, it's incredibly hard to find. It grows in the wild, but due to European settlement and the resulting changes to the land, its availability has drastically declined. It's now a rare delicacy, sought after by food enthusiasts and those with a deep respect for Australia's indigenous food traditions. Once you've tasted murnong, you'll understand why people get so excited about it. The earthy sweetness, combined with its slightly fibrous texture, makes it a unique addition to any meal. The history behind murnong is as rich as its flavor. Aboriginal Australians had a deep connection to the land and its foods, and Murnong was a symbol of sustainability and resourcefulness. Today, it's not just a food, it's a link to the past, a reminder of a time when people knew how to live in harmony with nature. So, if you ever get the chance to taste Murnong, take it. It's not just food, it's history, culture, and a bit of Australian wilderness all wrapped up in one very rare, delicious tuber. Number 10. Oton Maze. If you find yourself in the lush hills of Oaxaca, Mexico, and someone offers you a bite of Oton Maze, don't be surprised if it's unlike any corn you've ever had. Oton is a rare, ancient variety of maize that's as distinctive as it is delicious, and it's been a treasured food for generations. If you can get your hands on it, that is. Think of it as the celebrity corn of the maize world, except it's been doing its thing quietly for centuries, just waiting for its moment in the spotlight. Unlike your typical corn on the cob or popcorn, Oton Maze is a special breed grown only in certain regions of Oaxaca, Mexico. The kernels are larger, more colorful, sometimes a striking mix of red, yellow, and purple, and they pack a serious punch in the flavor department. It's not just corn, it's corn with character. When cooked, Oton transforms into a soft, creamy, and slightly nutty treat. It's used to make everything from tortillas and tamales to savory stews and even drinks. And for those who love traditional Oaxacan food, it's like the sacred ingredient that elevates every dish. So why is Oton Maze consumed? Well, it's not just for its taste. This ancient grain was originally cultivated by the Zapotecs and Mixtecs, civilizations who understood that their corn would help them survive the harsh conditions of the region. Plus, it's packed with nutrients, just the thing to fuel a hardworking community. These days, it's a symbol of Oaxaca's culinary heritage and its ongoing connection to ancient traditions. People enjoy Oton Maze not only for its robust flavor, but because eating it feels like participating in a centuries-old ritual. It's a rare treat, making each bite feel like you're savoring history, and of course, a cornucopia of flavor. So if you're lucky enough to try Oton, cherish it. It's the corn that knows it's special. And now, so do you. Number 9. Gei Red Pea. If you ever find yourself on Sapelo Island, Georgia, and someone offers you a serving of Gei Red Pea, prepare yourself for a taste experience that's as rich in history as it is in flavor. This rare and mighty little legume isn't just any pea, it's the pride of the Gei people, a community descended from West African slaves who settled along the southeastern coast of the U.S. The Gei Red Pea is a symbol of cultural resilience, a food that has stood the test of time, and yes, it's surprisingly delicious. What makes the Gei Red Pea so unique? For starters, it's not just your run-of-the-mill vegetable. These peas have a vibrant reddish hue, a smooth texture, and a slightly sweet, earthy flavor that makes them a perfect addition to any southern dish. They're traditionally cooked slow and low with a variety of seasonings, like garlic, onions, and, if you're feeling adventurous, a little ham hock. But the magic lies in the slow simmering that brings out their rich, hearty taste. It's a humble vegetable with a lot to say. Why is it consumed? Well, it's been a staple in the diet of Sapelo Island's residents for centuries. The Gei people cultivated these peas not only because they thrived in the coastal soil, but also because they were a reliable source of nourishment. Today, they're a cherished tradition that ties the community to its past, while also offering a hearty and nutritious meal. Why do people enjoy them so much? It's simple. These peas are a reminder of heritage, resilience, and a taste of southern comfort in every bite. They're not just food, they're history on a plate wrapped up in a tiny red shell. So if you're lucky enough to try a Gei Red Pea, savor it. It's not just a vegetable, it's a piece of a rich cultural legacy. Number 8. Skurp Jot, a rare meat food from Faroe Islands, Denmark. If you've ever been to Denmark and found yourself in the Faroe Islands, there is one dish you might have been dared to try, Skurp Jot. But don't be fooled by the cool exotic name. This is not your average fresh-off-the-grill steak. It's fermented mutton, yes, you heard that right, fermented. While it may sound like a Viking dare, Skurp Jot is actually a cherished food, and it has been delighting or terrifying locals for centuries. The origins of Skurp Jot go way back. Picture this. Vikings live on the windswept cliffs of the Faroe Islands, surrounded by rocky terrain and a limited supply of fresh food. What do? They get creative. By hanging lamb meat outside to dry and ferment in the chilly air, they could preserve it for months, if not longer. Who needs refrigeration when you have wind and salt? Fast forward to today, and this ancient practice continues. Skurp Jot is a cornerstone of Faroese cuisine, often served in thin slices, enjoyed with hearty rye bread, and washed down with a bit of local schnapps. The fermentation process gives the meat a strong, pungent flavor that might leave first-time gasping for air. But to locals, it's a taste of tradition. So why do people like it? Perhaps it's more than just food. It's an experience. Eating Skurp Jot is like tasting history, one chewy, flavorful bite at a time. It's bold, it's unique, and it's not afraid to challenge your taste buds. In a world full of bland sandwiches, Skurp Jot says, "I've got character and I'm here to stay." It might not be for everyone, but hey, if you're ever feeling adventurous or just want to impress your friends with your Viking roots, give it a try. Number 7. Shio Katsuo. If you've never tasted Shio Katsuo, you're in for a unique salty adventure straight from the coastal wonderland of Nishi-Izu, Japan. This rare seafood dish is like Japan's answer to a salty snack, except it's very fishy and incredibly historic. Shio Katsuo is made by drying skipjack tuna, called katsuo, and curing it with just the right amount of salt. The result? A snack that could potentially be the love child of jerky and sashimi. The fish is smoked, salted, then aged until it achieves an almost mummified quality. Not quite for the faint of heart, but definitely a treat for those who appreciate a mouthful of sea air with every bite. The history behind this curious food dates back to the Edo period when fishermen in Nishi-Izu, a coastal region famous for its tuna, needed to preserve their fresh catch during long sea voyages. A clever mix of drying and salting made the fish last for months without refrigeration, something most of us can't imagine in this age of chilled avocado toast. The result was a survival food that turned into a delicacy. But why do people eat Shio Katsuo today? Well, besides its centuries-old preservation method, it's simply tasty. It's enjoyed as an appetizer or snack paired with sake, giving you a delightful hit of umami that makes your taste buds feel like they've just been slapped by a fishy wave. So, if you ever find yourself in Japan looking for something beyond sushi or ramen, consider Shio Katsuo. It's not just a food, it's a salty, smoky, historical adventure for your mouth. Just remember, don't expect it to taste like anything you've had before. That's the point. Number 6. Kaa Banana. Have you ever bitten into a banana that made you wonder if you were eating a fruit or a vegetable? Welcome to the world of Kaa Banana, a peculiar treasure from Uganda that's so unique, it'll make your average banana look like a mere imposter. Kaa Banana is a cooking banana, not your typical snack-on-the-go type. Unlike its sweeter cousins, this banana is like the introverted cousin of the fruit world, hiding its true potential in the kitchen. Its flavor is starchy and slightly tangy, making it perfect for steaming, boiling, or frying. In fact, if you're in Uganda and someone offers you a Kaa banana, you're about to embark on a savory journey that might involve stews, porridge, or even a delicious side dish. Don't expect to peel it and munch away like a regular banana. This one's got a different vibe. But why is this banana consumed so much? Well, besides its versatility, it can go from breakfast porridge to hearty dinner side. Kaa has been Uganda's staple for centuries. It's rich in carbohydrates, making it the fuel of choice for farmers, workers, and anyone who needs a solid meal. The banana's hearty nature has earned it the title of the working fruit in Uganda. No sugar rush here, just pure energy. As for the history, Kaa is thought to have been cultivated in Uganda for over 500 years, arriving from the fertile lands of Southeast Asia. Over time, it became woven into the fabric of Ugandan cuisine, thanks to its resilience and ability to thrive in the country's diverse climates. So next time you find yourself in Uganda, don't just grab any banana. Go for the kayinja. It's not just a fruit, it's a starchy, historical powerhouse on a plate. Number 5. Reindeer, Alaska. Picture this. You're in Alaska, surrounded by snow, towering pines, and a whole lot of wilderness. Suddenly, you're served a dish so unique that it'll make your jaw drop or freeze off depending on the temperature. What is it? Why, it's reindeer. Yes, reindeer, the majestic creature that pulls Santa's sleigh, also happens to be delicious. Now let's talk about reindeer as food. This is not some festive Rudolph-inspired dish, thankfully. Reindeer meat, which is often called caribou in the US, is a lean, gamey delight. It's not your typical steak or roast. It's got the flavor of the wild. Imagine a steak with the rugged charm of Alaska's wilderness, slightly earthy, a little rich, and very hearty. In Alaska, reindeer meat is enjoyed in a variety of ways: steaks, sausages, jerky, and even burgers. If you've ever wanted to experience eating like a real Alaskan, this is it. Why is it consumed? Well, aside from its fantastic flavor, reindeer meat is a practical and sustainable food source in the harsh Alaskan environment. With reindeer herding a tradition of both indigenous people and settlers, this meat has been providing hearty meals for generations. It's protein-packed, and given that reindeer thrive in the cold, they're perfectly suited to the Alaskan landscape. Why eat a regular cow when you can feast on a creature that looks like it just walked out of a winter wonderland? Historically, reindeer were introduced to Alaska in the late 1800s by Russian settlers, but they were quickly adopted by the indigenous Inupiat people, who recognized the reindeer's potential as a valuable food source. So next time you find yourself in Alaska, forget the moose meat. Reindeer is the real treat, and it's hoofing good. Number 4. Alligator, Gulf Coast. If you've ever wondered what it tastes like to eat something that could have once eaten you, look no further than alligator. Yes, the reptile you usually find lounging in swamps or crossing your path in Florida. But in the Gulf Coast, this scaly creature is served up with a side of southern charm, and it's as unique as it gets. Alligator meat is like the mystery meat of the South, tender yet firm, with a flavor that's a little like chicken, but with more attitude. Think of it as if chicken and fish had a wild, swampy baby. You can find it fried, grilled, or even in a gumbo. And don't forget about the gator tail, often the most coveted part, which delivers a deliciously chewy bite that makes you think, wow, I'm basically a swamp adventurer now. Why is alligator consumed? For one, it's delicious, but also, it's practical. Alligator populations in the Gulf Coast are abundant, and eating them has become a way of making good use of nature's bounty. Plus, it's high in protein and low in fat, so it's practically health food, if you're okay with it tasting like something that could have once stalked you from the water. For many, it's also a matter of tradition. In the Gulf Coast, eating alligator is a rite of passage, a way to embrace the wild, quirky nature of the region. Historically, alligator meat was consumed by Native Americans long before the first Europeans arrived. The Cajun and Creole cultures of Louisiana took it to the next level, incorporating alligator into their famous gumbo, jambalaya, and even sausages. So, if you're in the Gulf Coast and want to taste a piece of history and maybe feel a little adventurous, grab some alligator. It's a bite of Southern heritage that might just bite back. Number 3. Buffalo ribs, Arkansas. Forget chicken wings or baby back ribs. If you want to get truly wild with your barbecue, it's time to sink your teeth into some buffalo ribs from Arkansas. No, not the kind of buffalo that casually strolls through a zoo while you sip lemonade. We're talking about the real deal, the mighty American bison, the true king of the plains, now making its way onto your dinner plate in a tender, smoky rib form. Buffalo ribs are unique, and they know it. Unlike their cow counterparts, buffalo meat is leaner, heartier, and has a slightly sweeter, richer flavor. Imagine if beef and venison had a barbecue-loving love child. It's that kind of goodness. When these ribs are smoked, slow-cooked, or grilled, they're practically begging for a place at your next cookout, accompanied by sides of coleslaw and baked beans. Why is buffalo consumed in Arkansas? Simple. The bison, once roaming free across the United States, became nearly extinct due to overhunting. But thanks to conservation efforts, bison herds are making a comeback, especially in places like Arkansas, where farmers and ranchers now raise them for their meat. It's a local delicacy that celebrates both the wild heritage of the region and sustainable farming. Plus, the lean, protein-packed meat is a great alternative to traditional beef. As for history, buffalo ribs are part of a longer, wilder tradition. Native American tribes relied heavily on the buffalo for food, clothing, and shelter. Fast forward to the present day, and Arkansans have embraced this rugged, flavorful meat as part of their culinary culture. So, if you're in Arkansas and you see buffalo ribs on the menu, don't hesitate. Grab a rack and sink your teeth into history. Just make sure you don't try to outrun one afterward. Number 2. Geoduck, Pacific Northwest. If you've ever seen a geoduck, pronounced gooey duck, you might have thought, is that a clam, a sea creature, or an alien trying to blend in? Well, it's a clam, but not like any clam you've ever seen. This mollusk from the Pacific Northwest is famous for its comically long neck that looks like a snorkeling vacuum cleaner, making it the class clown of the clam world. Geoducks live buried deep in the sand, and they're known for their giant siphons, which can grow up to 3 feet long. But don't be fooled by their goofy appearance. These squishy creatures are serious business when it comes to seafood. Geoducks are prized for their tender, sweet meat and are a delicacy in Asian cuisine, particularly in Japan and China. In fact, geoduck sushi is considered a luxury dish. So, the next time you're thinking about the fanciest bite of seafood you can have, remember geoduck is the Beyoncé of clams. Why is it consumed? Well, besides being delicious, geoducks are packed with nutrients. They're high in protein, low in fat, and basically the perfect snack for anyone who wants to eat something both quirky and healthy. Plus, geoducks have an exceptionally long shelf life, so they're easy to transport and enjoy fresh, whether served raw, sautéed, or in soups. As for the history, geoducks have been harvested by indigenous peoples of the Pacific Northwest for thousands of years. Native tribes recognized the mollusk's value, and it became a key part of their diet. In modern times, the geoduck has gained international fame, especially among adventurous eaters who want to taste something truly out of this world. So, next time you find yourself on the Pacific coast, don't just settle for your regular clam chowder. Take a deep dive and try geoduck. It's the seafood that literally has a neck for adventure. Number 1. Balute China. If you think your breakfast options are wild, just wait until you encounter balute, a delicacy so unique it might make you question all your previous life choices. Balute is a fertilized duck egg, and when you crack it open, you get a whole lot more than just the usual egg yolk. Inside, a partially developed duck embryo, complete with feathers, a beak, and a strong don't-eat-me vibe. This dish is famously consumed in China as well as other parts of Southeast Asia, and it's often served as a street food snack or part of a hearty meal. But why? Because apparently eating an embryo is the ultimate protein-packed power snack. It's said to be high in protein, calcium, and, well, adventure, with a dash of you really need to trust your local vendor. Balute isn't just a food, it's a culinary challenge. People don't just eat it casually, they savor it, slurping down the broth before biting into the tender, slightly chewy duckling inside. Some like to season it with salt, pepper, and vinegar, adding a zesty flair to the whole experience. For the uninitiated, the idea of eating a semi-formed bird might be unsettling, but for those in the know, it's a delightful bite that's as rich in culture as it is in flavor. Historically, balute has roots in the Philippines and parts of China, where it was developed as a nutritious snack for farmers. With its portable nature and high caloric value, it was the perfect food to fuel long days of hard work. Over time, it became a beloved street food across Asia, gaining a reputation for being both exotic and, let's say, memorable. So if you're in China and want to take your taste buds on the wildest ride ever, grab a balute. It's not just food, it's an egg-sperience. And there you have it, 20 unique foods that are probably making your stomach do a somersault right now. From questionable-looking delicacies to dishes that might just require a second look or a deep breath, the world's food scene is full of surprises. Whether you're daring enough to try alligator ribs or trying to convince your taste buds that balut is a cultural experience, remember? It's all part of the adventure. So next time you're at a weirdly exotic restaurant, embrace the weirdness. Who knows? You might just end up loving something no one's ever heard of, or not.